The Strangeness of Existence, Leibniz, Heidegger, and the Forgotten Question of Being. Human existence harbours a profound and often overlooked mystery. We navigate daily life amid familiar streets, buildings, tools, languages, social roles, and institutions. These elements feel so self-evident, so woven into the fabric of routine, that they rarely provoke astonishment. Yet, beneath this veneer of ordinariness lies something astonishing. The sheer fact that there is a world at all, a cosmos filled with matter, life, consciousness, history, and meaning. Why does anything exist rather than absolute nothingness? The German philosopher Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, 1646 to 1716, captured this enigma in one of the most radical questions in the history of thought. Why is there something rather than nothing? Leibniz posed this in the context of his principle of sufficient reason, arguing that nothing happens without a reason, and that the existence of contingent things, those that could have been otherwise, demands an ultimate explanation. He ultimately pointed toward a necessary being, God, as the sufficient reason grounding all existence, since nothing is simpler and easier than something. Yet here we are. This question does not inquire into the causes of specific entities, why trees grow, why planets orbit, or why humans evolved. It probes the ground of existence itself. Why is there a universe, a reality, beings as such, rather than utter void? Nothingness appears logically conceivable. There is no apparent contradiction in imagining absolute non-being. Yet existence prevails. If we linger with this thought, the everyday world reveals its strangeness. It is not logically necessary, not self-explanatory, but a brute, wondrous gift. In ordinary experience, however, this mystery fades. We rarely feel the weight of Leibniz's question, because human life begins not with sudden awakening, but with gradual immersion. The disappearance of wonder. We enter the world as infants, not as fully formed observers. Consciousness emerges slowly through sensory exploration, language acquisition, social interaction, and practical engagement. Words are learned by repetition. Customs become second nature through imitation. Objects gain significance through use. Over time, the world grows transparent. It recedes into the background as a reliable setting for our projects. A chair is no longer a puzzling entity, but simply for sitting. A road exists for driving. A hammer serves for nailing. Practical familiarity dulls our capacity for wonder. The deeper question, why any of this referential network exists at all, slips from view, concealed by the demands of living. This process of habituation explains why most people move through life without profound astonishment. The world feels obvious because we have been shaped by it incrementally, from dependence to apparent mastery. A thought experiment, awakening into the world. To recapture the lost sense of strangeness, consider a vivid thought experiment, one that lends itself powerfully to cinematic narration for a YouTube audience. Imagine a science fiction scenario. A man suddenly awakens as a fully grown adult, with no memories, no prior experiences, thrust instantly into a complete functioning world. He opens his eyes in a bustling city street. People hurry past, speaking in unfamiliar languages, following unspoken rules. Cars navigate roads with precision. Buildings tower with intricate architecture. Machines hum with purpose. He examines his own hands, then gazes at the skyline. Everyone around him seems perfectly at home, as if the entire order was self-evident. Yet to him, it is utterly bewildering. Why these particular customs and institutions? Why language? Why social coordination? Why matter organized into forms at all? Why is there a world, streets, bodies, consciousness, rather than empty space or pure nothingness. In that moment of disorientation, Leibniz's question would strike with visceral force. Why is there something rather than nothing? The man's astonishment would feel entirely rational, unclouded by the gradual numbing of familiarity that shapes ordinary human development. This narrative opening, perhaps rendered in sweeping visuals, ambient sound design shifting from silence to chaotic urban life, and a voiceover posing the question, could hook viewers emotionally before delving into philosophy, transforming abstract ideas into an experiential journey. Yet for most of us, no such abrupt awakening occurs. We are always already in the world, and familiarity breeds invisibility. Heidegger and the forgotten question of being. The 20th century German philosopher Martin Heidegger, 1889 to 1976, argued that Western philosophy had largely forgotten this fundamental mystery. In his monumental Being and Time, 1927, Heidegger sought to revive the question of being, Sein itself, the meaning or sense of what it is for anything to be. He praised Leibniz's formulation, adopting and adapting it in his 1935 lectures Introduction to Metaphysics. There, Heidegger calls it the fundamental question of metaphysics. Why are there beings at all instead of nothing? Or, in a sharper Heideggerian inflection, emphasizing the nothing against which beings stand out. For Heidegger, this is not merely one question among others, but the originary, broadest, and deepest inquiry. It opens the space for all genuine philosophizing. Heidegger believed modern thought had become distracted by ontic questions about particular beings, causes, or knowledge, while neglecting the ontological question of being. Philosophy had lost the ability to experience the wonder that Leibniz's question evokes. Instead of confronting the strangeness of existence, it treated the world as a collection of objects to be mastered. The Cartesian turn and its limitations. Heidegger traced part of this forgetfulness to René Descartes, 1596 to 1650, and the rise of modern subjectivism. Descartes famously established the thinking self, I think, therefore I am, as the indubitable foundation and divided reality into two substances, res cogitans, thinking substance, the mind, and res extensa, extended substance, matter. Human beings became primarily detached observers, epistemological subjects seeking certain knowledge of an external world of objects. This Cartesian framework shifted philosophy toward epistemology. How can the mind reliably know the external world? Truth became correspondence between mental representations and objective reality. The world was reduced to something present at hand, vorhanden, a domain of measurable, extended things for scientific analysis and technological control. Heidegger contended that this picture fundamentally distorts human existence. We are not first isolated minds confronting a neutral world of objects. Prior to any theoretical reflection, we are already immersed in a meaningful context. Existence is not a subject-object split, but a holistic being in the world, in der Weltsein. We encounter things primarily through practical involvement, not detached contemplation. Descartes' dualism, by privileging the subject and representational knowledge, obscured this primordial embeddedness and contributed to the technological enframing of modernity, where being itself is forgotten. Thrownness, the unchosen ground of existence. Heidegger introduces the concept of thrownness, Geworfenheit, to describe our condition. Dasein, his term for human existence, literally being there, does not choose its entry into the world. We find ourselves thrown into a particular historical moment, culture, language, family, and set of possibilities. No one selects their century, native tongue, or initial circumstances. Existence arrives as a facticity we must take up. This resembles a throw of the dice. The world was already in motion long before we appeared, with its network of meanings, traditions, and constraints. Thrownness underscores the contingency and groundlessness of our being. We are delivered over to a situation not of our making, yet we must project possibilities forward from within it. This structure reveals existence as finite, situated, and never fully transparent to itself. Everyday life and the dominion of Das Man. Despite this mysterious thrownness, most people quickly fall into inauthentic absorption in everyday social existence. Heidegger calls this mode Das Man, often translated as the they or the one. In the public world of anonymous norms, individuals do not confront existence directly but conform to what one does, believes, or aspires to. One dresses as one dresses, pursues careers as one pursues them, holds opinions as one holds them. Individuality dissolves into averageness and levelling down. Das Man provides a comforting illusion of stability and understanding, but it covers over the uncanniness of being. Under its sway, Leibniz's question recedes entirely. Life becomes a series of habitual tasks governed by social expectation rather than authentic confrontation with mystery. The hammer and readiness to hand. Heidegger's famous hammer example in Being and Time illustrates how the world normally conceals itself. When a carpenter skillfully uses a hammer, the tool does not stand out as a separate object for theoretical inspection. It withdraws into the activity of building. The focus remains on the nail, the wood, the project. Heidegger terms this readiness to hand, Zuhandenheit, equipment encountered in its equipmental character within a referential totality of involvements, a world of purposes and significances. Only when the hammer breaks, becomes too heavy, or goes missing does it obtrude as a mere thing. Present at hand, Vorhanden. The breakdown disrupts the smooth flow, revealing the underlying context and, potentially, the strangeness of the whole referential structure. Analogously, everyday routines conceal the question of being. Disruptions, malfunctions in our projects, breakdowns in meaning, can momentarily restore visibility to the deeper mystery. Anxiety, death, and the return of the question. Certain fundamental moods pierce the veil of Das Man more profoundly. Anxiety, angst, unlike ordinary fear directed at specific threats, is a diffuse unease revealing the groundlessness of existence itself. In anxiety, the familiar world loses its significance. Beings as a whole slip away, and we confront the nothing that Heidegger emphasizes. This mood individualizes us, stripping away the illusions of the they and reopening the space for the question of being. The most decisive disruption, however, is the authentic confrontation with death. Heidegger does not view death primarily as a future event, but as Dasein's own most non-relational possibility, something that cannot be delegated to others. In everydayness, Das Man speaks of death evasively. One dies eventually, domesticating it and allowing us to flee our finitude. When we resolutely anticipate death, running forward toward it in thought, we recognize our existence as finite, fragile, and uniquely our own. Routines lose their grip. Ambitions and social roles appear temporary. Mortality individualizes us, calling us out of inauthenticity toward resoluteness, Entschlossenheit. In this clearing, Leibniz's question regains its force with existential urgency. Why is there something, my finite thrown existence, rather than nothing? Being toward death thus becomes the pathway to authentic existence, where we own our possibilities rather than flee them. Heidegger sometimes evokes concrete reminders, such as standing in a graveyard, where the reality of finitude confronts us viscerally, dissolving the superficiality of anonymous life. The task of philosophy, awakening wonder. For Heidegger, philosophy is not primarily the construction of theories or the accumulation of knowledge. It is a historical, questioning activity that seeks to awaken us from the forgetfulness of being. In an age dominated by technology, where everything is reduced to standing reserve for efficient use, philosophy must recover the primordial wonder that Leibniz expressed and that pre-Socratic thinkers once embodied. By analysing structures like thrownness, being in the world, readiness to hand, anxiety, and being toward death, Heidegger aims to reveal the strange and mysterious fact that the world exists at all. Recovering the question of being is not a return to pre-modern naivety, but a thoughtful confrontation with our historical situation, opening new possibilities for human dwelling. Conclusion: human life unfolds in the tension between familiarity and mystery. Language, tools, social norms, and routines weave a comforting web that renders existence seemingly obvious. Yet this web conceals the astonishing truth: there is a world rather than nothing. Leibniz articulated this with metaphysical precision, grounding it in sufficient reason. Heidegger radicalized it existentially, diagnosing modernity's forgetfulness and providing phenomenological tools to retrieve the question. Philosophy's enduring task is not merely explanatory, but revelatory, to awaken us, like the man suddenly thrust into existence, to the profound strangeness beneath the ordinary. In moments of breakdown, anxiety, or resolute confrontation with mortality, the veil lifts. We sense the groundlessness, the finitude, and the wonder. To dwell thoughtfully in this question is to live more authentically, attuned to the miracle that anything exists at all.